They would march through the streets. Of course, the local girls, would line up on the side.
Like The Bachelor.
Yeah.
Was school like weird? Did people talk about it at school, or the day after we went to war? Was it?
I'm sure they did. I know on D-Day, I know they dismissed school so we could go uptown. They were having some kind of celebration there. I remember always reading the paper. Kids nowadays at 12 wouldn't think of reading it, but I just couldn't wait to get it and read all the news, what was going on in the war.
What about the end of the war? Do you remember when the war was over?
Yeah,
Where were you? Because you would have been in high school.
Yeah, I was just a sophomore.
Remember where you were when you heard Japan had surrendered?
I knew when that bomb was dropped that was going to be the end. I do remember reading that they said that so many of the Japanese were embedded in different islands that belonged to us and other people, that they hadn't gotten the news that we had dropped that bomb, and they kept fighting, even though Japan had already surrendered.
Well, after it was over, how long was it till Uncle Steve came home and Uncle Charlie and Uncle George?
As soon as they hit back on land, I think they could come home right then. Well, like in high school, if we had dances, we always called them sweater swings or something, because nobody could have afforded to be formal with an evening dress.
Yeah.
And saddle Oxfords, because we just had our one pair of shoes. We rode our bicycles a lot when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
During the war, we had a bicycle club, a whole bunch of us, my friends. There were about 8 of us, and every Sunday we'd take off and we'd ride out the country. It's about 10 miles.
You used to go to basketball and football games?
Yeah, went to all the games. My group weren't old enough, near old enough, but Glory's, I know, was always worried because she knew that everybody in her class would be going into the service. She graduated in 44, even 46, after the war was over. That affected some of the boys that were in our group, not our class. They still were required to serve for 2 years, even after the war was over. The minute they were 18, regardless of where they were in school, they had to go.
Were they like scared, or were they just like
I don't
patriotic?
think some of them might have been, but I think they probably were anxious to get in there. They were just children, really. Always glad that Steve, he had a dangerous place to be, but he didn't have to. At least I'd never heard it, because he didn't have to. At least I'd never heard it, because he never talked about it after he came home. He never talked about any of his experiences. But Charlie, now was in the Navy, he was right. He never talked about it, but he saw action. And then I graduated. We were the first group that were actually free of it. The boys that graduated in 47 didn't have to sign up unless they just wanted to. But the year before, they did have to. So I remember and especially, I told you that Mother would have Gloria and I to go to Kroger on our way to school, and we'd be late, but she had to have soap, and we'd both get just a little tiny, a pound box of soap so she could wash her clothes. And then cake soap, I remember trying to take a bath with a cake of soap it was so thin that we would throw it away now, probably, because we wouldn't want to fool with it. And there were 5 of us at home, and if we could find a cake of soap, we were so happy.
Yeah.
Shampoo, you could hardly get shampoo. And I remember washing my hair in soap, and if you wash your hair in soap, it just somehow leaves it a mess. I mean, it's awful. But that would be all we had. But to have a big cake of soap in the bathtub, I remember the first time we could get it. It was just like giving me a check for $100. I thought how wonderful to have a big cake of soap that I could just use as much as I want instead of a little sliver.
Why soap, do you think?
Well, it's related somehow to ammunition, and I don't know how. And we had to always empty our cans wash our cans and empty, take both ends off
Oh,
of the
yeah.
can and mash it on the
Put
floor.
them in the middle and mash
Yeah,
them.
put the things in the middle and turn them into it. They had a place down on Main Street. They used that for ammunition, the
Oh.
cans. So we had to save. Oh, Mother was so firm with us to do that. It was a habit. We just,
Yeah.
the first thing we did.
I think that was ingrained in her head because she used to do that when I was little. I
Really?
remember seeing you putting the ends in, putting them in, and smashing them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Vaguely, I remember you told me about something about the boys coming home and like being outside the movie theaters.
Well,
Was-
there was uptown, there was a restaurant, it was a high school, and I never went in there when I was just a student. Mother and Daddy wouldn't let us because they sold beer, and they wouldn't even let us go in there. I think Annabelle sneaked in there a lot of times, not to drink beer, but on a date at night or
Yeah.
something. And it was really a nice restaurant. And anyway, all the college kids and older high school kids, it was just a place to be. It was just a hangout. It was the first part of it was just stools or you could order a Coke or a sandwich, and then the next room was where there were booths and you could order a dinner and they'd bring your dinner to you. And then on past that, there was a Nickelodeon, where you play records, you put a nickel in, and
yeah.
and you could dance back there. When I got older, I got used to go back there with,
Oh yeah, I remember you
with Bill
telling me.
Blankenship. We'd go to a movie and walking up to the park, they called it the park, and go back there and get a Coke. And there wouldn't be anybody there after a movie. They were still open up front, but nobody back there dancing. And we'd play the Nickelodeon and dance
That's
and
so
get a
fun.
Coke. That's all we got, a Coke.
Yeah.
But then when some of the military boys were on leave, they would come and hang out there.
Oh,
'Cause I
yeah.
remember you seeing
Yeah.
them hanging out.
That's when the cadets was closed up. I don't know if I told you that. They closed to just regular students. It was just military, and they were cute, young boys. Annabelle had a different date every weekend. I think they were really cute, and everybody. They had a big USO house, and it was down on Main Street, and so the soldiers and cadets would go there and dance. Local girls would go in there and dance with them. The ones that were left resented the cadets here because all the girls went crazy over the cadets. I wasn't old enough.
Yeah.
So
But,
she says.
well, I wasn't, but I wish I had been old enough because they were cute. And every night they would march through the streets at 4 o'clock in formation, but they would be singing that, I've got 2 pence, jolly, jolly 2 pence. I've got 2 pence to last me all my life. I've got 2 pence to spend, 2 pence to lend, and 2 pence to send home to my wife. But they would sing all that and march through the street. Of course, the local girls, would line up on the side.
Like the Bachelor.
Yeah.
I wasn't even remotely interested in them really that way, but I think about the girls that were a little bit older. And something else that I did every Saturday morning, me and my girlfriends and others, we'd go up to the library and roll bandages for the soldiers that were wounded. And we'd sit at a table, you had to wear gloves and everything, bandages and package them. And then
Send 'em
they'd
over?
send them to overseas, I guess. There were so many things to volunteer for, and all kinds of food. Meat was just unheard of. If you could get, I don't think we ever had steak during the war, but sometimes you could get hamburger, maybe. Never had much of that. Just ate salmon or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I never remember minding anything,
Yeah.
Everybody was patriotic then.
Yeah.
And at school, I remember every Monday morning we bought, they called them defense stamps. And they would sell them. It was 10 cents a stamp, and you had a book. You put those stamps in, and then when you got it full, it was equal to, I think, $5. And you saved that, and then at the end of the war, you could get that money back you could cash it in. So it was, we were saving for ourselves, but yet we were it was going to the service, to buy ammunition and stuff.
Yeah.
Even clothes, some clothes that you couldn't, it'd be hard to even, I remember when Mother got me a winter coat one year, because the coat I was wearing was just so worn out, and when cars were unheard of, that was later years. I didn't have to worry about that because I wouldn't have gotten a car anyway, but that was in the 40s. It was so hard to get, you had to have special permits if you wanted to buy a new car. To this
do
day,
another
I
part.
still every now and then think of something that is so easy to get now, and I think, oh, that used to be so hard to get. Of course, I think